Hey, everybody, what's going on? This your man, Big B, Brian Hanley, and welcome back to Steelers Almighty, man. Woo! Got a good show today. Got some stuff to cover as far as the Pittsburgh Steelers coming down off the high of the great draft. So we got some stuff to talk about. First off, um, how good is the Steelers D-line going to be? So that's the main thing. How good can that D line be this year for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Going to be interesting to see. Next thing is, why was the Steelers draft so good? What are some of the reasons why the Steelers draft was so good this season? And then finally, the article came out yesterday about Arthur Smith. We're going to dive into that. Arthur Smith's talking about, he held back last year, didn't use, his heavy inside and outside run schemes like he likes to get to, but he's going to get back to that. So we're going to talk about that today as well. So appreciate everybody being in here, man. Gonna have some fun today. Thank you guys for showing up and showing out like you guys always do, man. Again, you want to help support the channel, you know how to do that. Comments, questions, rants, you want those up on the screen. Super chats are wide open, and also memberships to be a part of Steelers Almighty are also available. 5 different tiers. If you're a member, you get access to all the lives. We always bring up your comments, questions, and rants up on the screen. So appreciate everybody being here, man. Let's have some fun. Let's get after this thing. So first things first, how good can the Steelers D-line be? And when I talk about the Steelers defensive line, I always preface this, especially since we were in nickel 58% of the time last year. So, I know we're a base 3-4 defense, but when you're nickel that much, then you have to count those edge rushers as part of your defensive line. So I always count TJ Watt, Highsmith, Herbig. I always count those guys as being defensive linemen because that's where they line up most of the time. So having said that, what did they add to this thing? Well, first off, Derek Harmon. Versatile guy, can play up and down the interior of the line in our base, in our nickel, whatever we're doing. That the addition of him was welcome. Had to get younger, had to get bigger, had to get stronger, more athletic. He fits that bill. Then Y.A. Black, we needed somebody in the middle. It also can free up potentially Keanu Benton. I don't want to just throw him out there immediately and say, okay, he's the nose tackle, but it can. So can we do that and free up Keanu Benton to get back to his more natural position, which is 3 technique, 5, 4-eye, and get him out of the nose? Because look, while Keanu Benton is an absolute beast, he's just not big enough to play nose tackle. I mean, it's not his fault. He's just, he literally just is not big enough to play the position. So since that's the case, we got to do some things, and now we got another guy in there that can be bigger. Then Jack Sawyer. Look, you guys knew that, and I've said this repeatedly, I thought the Steelers could have went a different way with the pick, but Jack Sawyer is a fine football player. He's a monster against the run, crazy motor. I mean, he brings a fourth defensive end or outside linebacker defensive end. He adds to the rotation. The Steelers are going to be better up front. They're going to be better up front. With just adding those 3 guys, the Steelers are going to be better up front. I know a lot of people out there, we should have added some more offense. We're always adding defense. And you're right, the Steelers didn't score a lot of points, that 5-game or 6-game or 5-game losing streak down the stretch. We didn't win a lot of football games. We just didn't. Having said that, they also didn't stop a lot of people either. And the Steelers got to get back to that. They got to be able to stop people. And you get better up front. That helps on the back. And that just helps your entire defense. And this defensive line is going to be good. Look, they got younger and bigger up front. They needed to get younger and bigger up front. They did that. They absolutely did that. So should they be stout against the run? Yes. And for a lot of last year, they did that. So they absolutely did that. But there were plenty of times last season, even when the overall numbers looked good and the Steelers ranked really high against the run, there were so many times when the Steelers had to stop somebody and you knew they were going to run the football that they couldn't do it. That's the part that where I always say, yeah, numbers can lie to you. Because when teams needed to run the ball and wanted to run the ball, they were able to run the ball. And that's what I'm trying to get across to people, because a lot of people just think, well, you look at the overall numbers of the Pittsburgh Steelers and, they ranked in the top 10 against the run. I go, but did you watch the games? Because if you actually watched the football games, that you would know that a lot of times, number one, teams were passing on the Steelers. But number two, when teams needed a yard and they wanted to run for a yard, they got it. When teams wanted to run for 2 yards or 3 yards, they got it. On 1st and 10, when teams wanted to run, they were able to get 2 or 3 yards, 4 yards. So the numbers can be deceiving sometimes. Like if it's a 2nd and 7 and a team wants to run the ball and they get 1 or 2 yards, that looks good on a stat sheet. But if you're actually paying attention to the game itself and you're watching, you know. Like, for instance, the Cowboys game. Like, the Cowboys didn't run for 150 yards against the Steelers. But when the Cowboys wanted to run the ball, they were able to run it. And that's where numbers come in and numbers lie. Like, when the Cowboys, okay, it's time for them to run the football, they were able to do it and do whatever they wanted on the ground. Now, the overall numbers of the game look like, hey, the Cowboys ran for 121 yards. The yards per carry wasn't great. It was under 4 yards a carry. So you look at that and say, well, the Cowboys didn't do much. But you're just watching the stats and you didn't actually watch the game. Because, yeah, we could stuff them. But when we had to stuff them, we couldn't. And that's what I'm talking about. And it was more evident. And I mean, I'm bringing up the Cowboys game. I just remember it specifically, the end of the game, that last drive. That last drive that the Cowboys went down and scored on, they were able to run the ball whenever they wanted to run it. And it was disgusting, to say the least. It was disgusting. I was upset. You were upset. We're like, the Cowboys were without linemen. How are they able to run the football against us? But they did. Shoring up that is something the Steelers had to do. You have to take away something. Now, you could say, hey, we need more secondary help, and I agree, we do. And we need this and that, and hey, against the pass, we got to be better. We do. But you got to start somewhere. Have an identity. And the Steelers' identity has always been stopping the run. I don't disagree. You stop the run and make teams pass, and then you get after the quarterback. Well, you got to start with stopping the run. It can't be, well, yeah, we like to stop the run, and we stop it every now and then, but, for the most part, we're not great at stopping the run. No, that can't be the answer. That cannot be the answer. We have to be a team that actually stops the run. And this draft and this D-line is going to go a long way in the Pittsburgh Steelers stopping the run. So as y'all are trickling in, hey, Torsha, what's going on? What's going on, Wes? Had a question earlier. Devin was asking a question. Do you think a black will take nose guard or nose tackle from Benton this year? And here's the thing. I don't want to just throw Y.A. Black in there immediately. I don't want to just say, okay, immediately that's his job. However, look, it's Mike Tomlin and kind of the Steelers' philosophy. They don't always put rookies out there to begin with. But you didn't draft this guy not to be a nose tackle. Like, they didn't draft Y.A. Black to just to come in and play 10 snaps a game and move up and down the defensive line. You need a big guy in the middle that can take up 2 blockers and doesn't get moved. That's what you need. And that's what he brings to the table. Since that's the case, and look, we love Keanu Benton. He's just out of position. He's out of position. He's not big enough for nose tackle. That is not his fault, by the way. I mean, you can't blame somebody because they weigh 305 pounds, and I think Keanu Benton, I think he would probably play at 290, but he's having to try to keep on weight and put on weight because he's trying to play nose tackle. I think his best weight is probably 290 pounds, 3 technique, 4 eye, 5 technique. I think that's his best position. Doesn't mean he can't spell people from time to time playing inside in there, when you mix things up. But I like Black, and I'd put him out there immediately if you can. If he's capable and understands, and again, he's not going to be a 3-down nose tackle. He's not. He's out there on rundowns to stop the run. He's not going to give us a ton as far as a pass rush. That's not what he does. That's just not what he does, So he's not going to do a ton of that. But when it comes to moving him out of the way, that's what we need him to do, to just not be moved, to be physical at the point of attack. So the Steelers should be stout against the run. Look, not talking enough about Jack Sawyer. I know I've said that I don't necessarily like the pick. I'm past that. Y'all know me. I'm past that. He's on my team. I want him to play well. And against the run, we know that Herbig is not good against it. We know that. So many people last year were saying, oh, we got to trade Alex Highsmith. We got Nick Herbig. We can play. I'm like, come on, guys. I go, are you all guys watching the same football games that I'm watching? Teams salivate to run at Nick Herbig. He just wasn't good against the run his rookie year. He wasn't good against it last year. Jack Sawyer should be good against the run. Now, what he brings as a pass rusher, we'll see. We'll see. Everybody talks about, well, he made a ton of plays in college, and he did. But his athletic traits don't translate well to the National Football League. But here's what I would say about that. While that's true, you know what does translate to the National Football League? Heart, motivation, drive. Those things, number one, you can't teach, and they're always with you, and that absolutely translates to the National Football League. So if we can find a way, if he can just find a way, again, he's not a guy that has to be out there, 65% of the snaps. He doesn't have to do that. We have a rotation. He doesn't have to be that guy, barring injury. But we were in trouble last year when we had injuries. Remember when Highsmith and Herbig got hurt? I mean, we literally got nothing on the opposite side of TJ Watt. We got nothing. We weren't good against the run. We weren't good. We got no pass rush. So that's my whole thing. Sawyer has that. We'll see, though. We'll see. Like I said, it's not he doesn't have to be out there 60 plays or anything like that. And I would say if you're asking Jack Sawyer to be out there for 60 plays, either somebody got hurt or that would be the only way. Somebody got hurt. Otherwise, he's not going to be out there that much because he doesn't need to be out there that much. And that's okay. But he's a run stuffer, so we should be better against the run. The depth on the Steelers line, that's what I'm really excited about. I'm excited about the Steelers' depth. So Mark Malone's talking about, but it does to a 4-2-5. I don't even understand what you're talking about, a 4-2-5. Okay? The Steelers run a lot of nickel, a lot of dime stuff. Actually, I don't know how much dime they actually run. Wasn't much at all. It was a lot of nickel. But the Steelers do it different where they bring in either 2 safeties, or I take that back, 3 safeties, or they bring in an extra corner. So, but there wasn't many times when they were running out there with just one linebacker. Not often. Not often. So, but my whole thing is is that you're not going to have Sawyer out there a lot. You're just not. So, and yeah, big pun. You're right. I've said it, and people have been crushing me for it, but I'm not backing down. Y'all know me. I'm not backing down. The fourth outside linebacker in a depth piece is not the guy that you have to take in the fourth round. But we got to get past that, though, big pun. We're as Steeler fans, we can't go back and do the draft. So it doesn't matter. It literally does not matter at this point. We can't talk about what we should have done, what we could have done, what we want to do. Doesn't matter because we didn't do it. So we didn't do it. And since we didn't, we got to deal in reality. I get what you're saying, and me and you are in agreement, and we don't even agree on very much, but we're in agreement on that. But Sawyer's on the team. That's what we're going to do. Steelers want to be able to stop the run. Their identity is we're going to stop the run and then get after the quarterback. Last year, we just couldn't stop it when we needed to. I know there's so many people that want to just look at the statistics and say this. Oh, you look at the statistics. The Steelers were 7th against the run. I'm like, but did you actually watch the football games? Because if you didn't watch the football games and you just want to look at the stats, then you don't know the real story. Because again, when teams wanted to run the ball, or better yet, when teams needed to run the ball against the Steelers, they were able to do it. That's the problem. It isn't that these teams ran, other than the Ravens, and went up and down the field running for 200, 250, 300 yards. I mean, that wasn't something that happened week in and week out. But what did happen is when teams, hey, we need to run the ball here, they were able to run it. And the perfect example, I brought this up earlier, is the Cowboys game. Cowboys, I don't even think the Cowboys got to 150 yards rushing against the Steelers last year. But when the Cowboys needed to run the football or when they wanted to run the football, they were able to do it. That is part of the problem. They got to stop that. They got to be a unit that doesn't allow that. So, got to be a unit that doesn't allow it. And, I know it's a good question, Devin, as far as who would I rather drafted versus Sawyer. Doesn't matter, man. I made my piece. I said who I thought. Doesn't matter at this point. I'm just a guy that once decisions have been made, we can second guess them, but at some point you got to turn the page. At some point you got to move on and this is reality. I made my piece. I said who I wanted, and now it's time to turn the page. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we just got to do what we got to do. And now it's time to go win football games. It's just time to go win football games and deal with what we have. Ali, what's going on, my man? Thanks for jumping in. Appreciate you. So, stop the run. Stop the run, D. Exactly, Eric. And that's what this D-line is going to do. Steelers got better. Their run defense got better. It got better. We needed younger, more athletic, more physical D linemen, and that's what the Steelers did. And again, I count outside linebackers as part of the D line. I count that because, again, 58% of the time we are not in our base 3-4 defense. So you might as well count those outside linebackers as defensive linemen. And I do. And the Steelers got better. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. The Steelers, potentially. Now, they got to do it on the field, obviously. But potentially, the Steelers got better. It's a better unit. It is a better unit all the way around. So, I'm excited for it. I think it's going to help us. Again, doing the things that we need to be able to do. I think it's going to help us. I like exactly where we're at. I like the stuff that we did. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll definitely see what happens. But again, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it. And another thing to keep in mind, I don't think the Steelers are necessarily done adding people either. So I don't think we're done adding people. You know how this works. Um, I don't know that they're going to add a whole lot between now and OTAs or mini camp or even training camp. But once training camp is over and final cut down day, there's going to be some guys that are available. The main people that I think the Steelers are going to add are offensive linemen, but we can get into that at a different time. So now let's move on, people. Why was the Steelers draft so good? Other than Mel Kiper, I think everybody believes that the Pittsburgh Steelers did a good job with their draft. I know there's some people out there that are bummed we didn't take a quarterback in the first round or second round or earlier than what we did. But to me, what the Steelers did, regardless of who they took, they didn't reach for anybody. Like, they didn't draft a guy that was, oh man, this guy was a third round talent. You took him in the first round. Oh man, this guy, he was a fifth round talent. Why are you taking him in the fourth? The Steelers didn't do that with any pick. Not one. I mean, literally not one. On the flip side, you could say that they got maximum value for every person that they took, including Derek Harmon, the first pick in the draft. There were plenty of teams that had him higher. Plenty of teams. So they didn't, a lot of people, you're right, Mark Malone, is that a lot of people are wanting to steal. Oh, they need to trade up. I'm like, no, man. The Steelers need bodies. They need players. The last thing in the world that the Steelers should have done was give up draft capital to move up. That wasn't necessary. Hell, in the later rounds, we even moved back, ended up getting the guy that we still wanted to get an extra pick in the 7th round. Now you could say, well, it's a 7th round pick. Well, there's plenty of 7th rounders that have made the Steelers football team and added to the depth so we could have a full allotment of football players. So the Steelers even did that. So I love the fact that number one, we did not move up. And number two, we got maximum value because there's plenty of people. I would bet half the league had Derek Harmon rated higher than Kenneth Grant. Now, I wasn't one of them. I would have loved Grant to be there. But when you actually look at what Harmon does versus Grant, Harmon is a much, much more versatile defensive lineman than Kenneth Grant. Kenneth Grant is a nose tackle. That's it. Now, I'm not saying he's not very good, because he is, but that's what he is. He is a nose tackle. Harmon can play, he can do that, but he can play all up and down the line, just like Cam Hayward. So for me, personally, this is a better fit. It's a better pick. Definitely a better value. So I like that, the fact that we didn't have to move up. And we can go right down the line. The third pick, look, Caleb Johnson. I thought there were other backs that were better than him. I'm fine with Caleb Johnson because I know he's a hell of a football player and he fits what Arthur Smith is trying to do. We'll get to that here in just a second. But we didn't reach because there's a lot of people that thought Caleb Johnson would be gone by the middle of the second round. Matter of fact, most people thought, hell, I don't even know, and I probably did 150 draft simulators. I don't know that I had more than 4 that had him lasting till the third round. Every single one of them, including an hour before the draft, every one of them, he was gone by the time the Steelers got to 83. So for him to still be there, I like it. Again, I admit, I thought there were some other guys, but again, you know me, it doesn't matter. I live in reality. And it's not like that Caleb Johnson isn't a hell of a running back, because he is. And he's going to do well here. And he doesn't have to be the guy. People, well, is he going to be the number one back? Eventually he will be. He doesn't have to be that from day one. He doesn't have to be that from day one. but eventually he will be. And I love it. I love it. Jack Sawyer, again, not the guy that I would have taken, but we did take him. Not a lot of people had him last until the 4th round. Now, I understand why he did. You look at some of his measurables, you look at his athleticism, his testing numbers, that kind of stuff. How will that translate to the NFL? And a lot of people are like, I don't know. But 4th round value for Jack Sawyer is incredible, man. It's incredible. 5th round, Y.A. Black, same thing. I mean, the Steelers were able to trade back, and this was such a big boy draft. They were able to trade back and still get him in the 5th round. So I'm like, hell yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Will Howard in the 6th round. Most people had him going late 3rd, early 4th. Wasn't getting past the 4th round. And here we are in the 6th, and we were able to get Will Howard. A lot of people want him to be the day one starter. I don't agree with that. I don't think Will Howard needs to be the day one starter. I don't even know if he's ever going to be a starter in the National Football League. But I know he's a good backup. I know he can be that. And if he can develop, I mean, we got to steal. We literally got to steal. I'm not opposed to it. I know, Big Pun, you're saying you're coming around to Will Howard. You should. I think it's a steal. I really do. And again, he doesn't have to be. I mean, how often, hey, man, we're taking this 6th round draft pick, this 6th round quarterback so he can be our future starter. Who says that? Like, who's doing that? And I know that it's happened on occasion. You don't have to run me off the name. You don't have to tell me about Tom Brady, okay? But who says, man, let's go get this 6th round quarterback so he can be our quarterback for the next decade? Nobody's doing that, man. Nobody's doing that, okay? But what you do say is, hey, we were able to get great value on this quarterback in the 6th round. I think he's better than that. Most people think he should have been drafted higher. We get him in the 6th. Let's develop this kid and see what we got. That's what that's why I'm so excited about the Will Howard. It isn't because I have some grand illusion that this guy's going to become the next Tom Brady. I'm not saying that. But I think he can be a more than capable good backup in this league. That's what I'm saying. So I don't want to get caught up in the what we think. So I just think that Will Howard is a good pick. I think he's a good pick. Somebody saying Will Howard's trash. That's somebody who doesn't watch a lot of football that wants to get on the internet and talk. I get it. But Will Howard's not trash, not even slightly. So, not even slightly. But I like that pick. 7th rounder, look. 7th rounder, we got 2. One was Mark Bruner. I totally understand. Or not Mark Bruner, Carson Bruner. Mark Bruner's son. I get it. But the guy can play some football, and I think he can be a killer on special teams. An absolute killer on special teams. So, cannot wait. Dante Kent, I thought he could have been a 5th or a 6th round pick, and I think that's what most people thought. You get him in the 7th, I like it. Got to develop, but I think he's going to battle for that nickel corner, slot corner position. I think he's in for a fight. I think he is in for a fight, and Benny Bishop's going to have a hard time. I can tell you that right now. Brandon Eccles, it's his job, but while we love Benny Bishop, to be honest with you, he's going to have to fight to stay on the roster. I'm just telling you right now, because Dante Kent is a better cover guy than what Benny Bishop Jr. is. And I'm a big fan of Benny Bishop, man. A big fan. But when you just look at, now again, college is college. And you can't, the experience that Benny Bishop got last year by basically being thrown into the fire when he wasn't ready, that's invaluable experience. Invaluable experience. But Dante Kent, he can cover. That's one of the things he can do. He can cover. So he's kind of got that quick twitch. He can cover some guys. So I think look for that to be one of the battles in training camp. That backup nickel corner slot and who actually makes the team. Because it's going to come down to one or the other, and it'll either come down to coverage, and it's going to come down to special teams. So we'll see what happens there. Like I said, I was a big Beanie Bishop fan, but I think I was more of a fan rooting for the undrafted free agent guy to come in and make the team. And he made some plays for us. We can't deny that. But he also got cooked a lot. A lot. And anywhere that we can upgrade, look, if we can upgrade, I'm sorry, it's a cruel business, but that's the football business. Either you're good enough or you're not. And if they can get rid of you, it's just like my job. If I'm not good and I don't entertain and I don't put out videos, YouTube doesn't send this out to people on the algorithm and nobody watches. So I'm not saying I'm the best at doing this or anything like that, but if I'm not going to be consistent and I don't put this out there and I don't know anything about the Steelers or what I'm talking about, and I try to get out here and talk, well, nobody's going to listen. Nobody's going to watch. Same thing in football, man. Same thing with football. And Cam Sutton's not on the team anymore. He was a one-year deal. Cam Sutton can no longer – if the Steelers sign him back, they're not trying to be a competitive football team. So if the Steelers were to sign Cam Sutton, they're not trying to be a competitive football team. So that's all I know. Cam Sutton can't play football anymore. So he just can't play football anymore. And, he had his own problems. I don't know what – Cam Sutton was good a few years ago with the Steelers, but I remember when he went and signed with Detroit, I'm like, people were mad that the Steelers didn't try to keep him. I go, for that money? There's no way the Steelers should be trying to sign him for what Detroit paid him. He wasn't that good. You're not paying Cam Sutton all that money. He can go. He can absolutely go. And he went to Detroit. Damn the off the field stuff where he got cut for. He wasn't very good in Detroit. But we already knew that. Like, you guys paid all that money for him, you could keep him. So you can keep him. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm excited about that battle. I'm very excited. So, DC, you think that Benton's going to stay at nose tackle? Why do you you say you predict that, but why would you want that? Like, why would you predict that? Because that's not a good sign for the Steelers. I'm assuming you're a Steelers fan, and if you are, that isn't a good thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers for Benton to stay at nose tackle. Now, I'm not saying it may not happen, but that ain't a good thing. Like, that's not a good thing at all. Keanu Benton's not a nose tackle. And we've seen it. He's not a nose tackle. So, okay. I guess if that's your prediction so you can be right, all right, that's fine. But Benton isn't a nose tackle. And we've seen it. I think you got to do some other stuff to unlock Benton's potential. So that's not even something that and you're right about the coaching staff being stubborn, but that's not even something I want to put in the universe because that doesn't help the Steelers. That doesn't make us better. Keeping him in nose tackle absolutely does not make us better. You may be right, but to be honest, there's some things that you can be right about that you shouldn't care about or you don't even want to be right about. Because that one would be a hindrance to the Steelers to just keep him at nose tackle. Now, if Keanu Benton puts on 20 pounds and he still can have the same type of explosiveness, that's a different story. That's a different story. But I don't think that's the case. So we'll see. We will see. So Big Pun, getting to some of these questions. Big Pun says, not saying Cam deserved to be brought back. just saying Sutton came off the suspended list and took Beanie's role. Yeah, he did. And you're right. He took his role immediately. Immediately took Beanie Bishop's job. And he was awful, to be quite frank with you. He was awful. So, and didn't look good. Didn't look good. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Let's move on, people. We're talking about Arthur Smith here. Arthur Smith, there was an article that came out yesterday. He basically said that Arthur Smith, and he says it, he held back from what he did, but with running a lot of his inside and outside zone. It was more outside zone plays, is that he held back from a lot of it. Now, there's going to be some of you out there that say we ran way too many toss and outside zones. And you're probably right. But think how much more we would have run it if Arthur Smith had had his way. Or it wasn't that he didn't have his way. He knew and adjusted to his personnel, which that's part of coaching. You got to adjust to your personnel. You want to run a bunch of outside zone, and you don't have the personnel to run outside zone, well, you can't run it as much. And they didn't. That's according to him. He's saying that, hey, I pivoted. I held back. I wasn't so rigid when I knew that our running backs weren't great at running outside zone. That includes Jaylen Warren, people. Or Jaylen Warren, excuse me. Jaylen Warren, that includes him. I mean, he was better than Najee, but he isn't great at outside zone. He's not great. And that is a staple of an Arthur Smith offense. And why? Because you can run the outside zone. You can run it. But then you can boot off of it. You can run play action off of it. Well, if you can't gain any yards by running outside zone, you're not going to be able to play action off of that. And that's what he wants to be able to do. And partly a lot of that is because you can wear down a defense. Because the defense, you're having to run side to side. You're having to go side to side. Now, one thing that they didn't mention in the article is offensive line. Look, you can have the best zone scheme running back in all the free world in the history of the NFL. But if your offensive line can't block it, that's not the running back's fault. And look, I know I do all 22 of the offensive line. We cut out 10 plays every week during the season. And I started going and showing you guys, hey, man, we're mad at Najee at these toss plays. If a guy just blocks a guy here or there, the toss play is there. And it wasn't Najee's fault. There were plenty of times where you're thinking, man, if Broderick just blocks a guy, if McCormick just gets off and gets to the backer, if Siamalu just gets a guy, there were plenty of times where it's one guy, everybody's blocked, one guy doesn't do their job, it ends up at a no gain. That happened a ton. Now, don't get me wrong, Najee wasn't the best at reading that stuff. He wasn't. His vision is average at best when it comes to NFL running backs. We get that. He doesn't have the lateral quickness, Caleb Johnson's going to be better at that. But the offensive line has to do their part. That was the one thing that didn't get mentioned. But Arthur Smith did say that he held back last year, basically due to the limitations of players and the familiarity of some players in doing it. But that's coaching. You have to adjust to what you did. Najee was a downhill runner. We needed more downhill plays, even if it's counters, even if it's, bin backs. A lot of that stuff you just have to run, even if it's not your skill strength as an offensive coordinator, because number one, your running back, that's what he's more comfortable with. Number two, because your offensive line, this is what they're more comfortable with blocking. I believe that this offensive line that the Steelers have, if they can be more athletic this season and be more fundamentally sound, the outside running scheme, I think this can be our friend. I really believe it can be our friend. And we have a back that can now exploit that. So, no DCTV. He look, you've got to run the plays. That's what I'm saying. I was just explaining to you. You can't, it's, you have to run the plays. If that's part of your offensive philosophy, you have to continue to run those plays, because if you're one block away, you're thinking, well, man, if we can just get the block, the play works. Now, granted, you have to, at some point, you have to say, well, if the guys can't block it, we got to stop running it. But, I just, some of it's going to be, is the lines just got to be better. And some of it also, again, your offensive philosophy, look, we got to get guys in here that can run this thing, because you get defenses running side to side. You bootleg off of that. You get guys, you can wear out a defense by doing that, man. You can. You can wear out a defense. I love the fact that he wants to get back to it. I love the fact that we now have a running back that can take advantage of it. I love that fact. And then we can throw off of it. We can throw deep down the middle off of it. We can run deep crossers. A lot of things that we'll be able to do if we can get that aspect of it going. If we can do that, our Steelers offense will be better. I don't like the fact that a lot of people think, and they're right, that the Steelers are still going to try to run the ball 65% of the time. I think that's disgusting. Or even 60% of the time. Look, it's not that type of league anymore. They've given you the carte blanche on the rules to throw the football a lot more, and you can get away with it. They've curtailed the rules to throwing the football. It's okay to score points. It's okay. It's okay to score 27 points a game. I would love it if the Steelers could get 27 points a game. I mean, it's not that far off. I know a lot of people think that, oh man, 27 points, that seems like an eternity. But it isn't. It really isn't. And I'm looking this stuff up right now. Last year, points per game. Detroit was at 33. The Bengals were at 27. I mean, the Steelers were at 20th, and they were at 21. That's basically 2 more field goals a game. 2 field goals a game, or 1 touchdown, and we're there. Now, you look at this and you say, well, 21 points a game, Big B. I mean, what are you talking about? That's already 3 touchdowns. But you guys know, just like I know, you watch the games. How many times did the Steelers score 3 touchdowns in a game? How often was that? It was more, we scored 2 touchdowns and then a collection of field goals, or 1 touchdown, or 7 field goals. And, it wasn't often that the Steelers were just, hey, man, we scored 3 touchdowns in this game. That didn't happen that often. It didn't. It was a collection of stuff. So, be careful, DCTV. Caleb was one of the best backs against a stacked box in college. Stack box in college and a stack box in the NFL are not even remotely the same. You got to be careful with that. There's not many running backs anywhere that are alive that have ever, nobody in the NFL, oh man, they got a stack box. He's good against a stack box. They didn't say that about Walter Payton. They didn't say that about Earl Campbell. Nobody's good against a stack box in the National Football League. That's not how this thing works. That's not how it works. So, running through guys at the college level is not the same as running through guys at the professional level. So, and you're exactly right, Torsha. If we get the passing game going, teams, even if we don't, if teams just want to say, oh, we're going to stack the box, really, you're going to put 8 guys, so you're not going to double team DK, you're not going to double team GP, well, okay. Great. We'll take our chances with that one-on-one coverage. We will absolutely take our chances. And I don't care who the quarterback is, whether it's Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, or somebody else that's on our football team. If you're not going to double team those guys, then the Steelers have to be able to punish them. That's what I would say. If there is, I mean, we didn't bring DK Metcalf to the Pittsburgh Steelers and give him $150 million for us to say, yeah, we're not going to throw this guy the ball. We want him to be a decoy. Now, I'm not saying that couldn't happen because you guys know, just like you guys know, like I know. That's, I mean, anything can happen with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would just hope that they wouldn't bring DK Metcalf in, pair him up with George Pickens for those guys to be a decoy for the damn run game. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. You're going to bring in a wide receiver to throw him 45 balls a year for him to have 45 catches a year? No. No. It just doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't mean it won't happen. I'm just saying it doesn't make sense to me. And I would hope that they don't do that. I would hope. But yeah, there it is, Torsia, a $33 million decoy. Yikes. Oh, my God. We won't be able to talk about it. I mean, after a month of the season, if DK and George Pickens have like a combined 22 catches, I'm going to be furious. I'm just telling you right now. I'm telling you right now. After a month of the season, at 4 games, if they've got a combined 22 catches, I'm going to be furious. I'm just absolutely furious. What are you talking about? They have a combined 22 catches. What are we doing on offense? Why did we bring DK here? 22 in 4 games? Between two. Now, if it was one guy that had that, okay, I can live with that. But between both of them, yeah, I'm going to be furious. I'm going to be furious. But that's what Arthur Smith's going to get back to, man. Utilizing the bootleg, utilizing outside zone, just being a better offense, man. Just being a better offense. And I think we've got the capabilities to do that. So I think it should be fun. That's a good question, Big Pun. Who has more catches, DK or GP? Here's what I will say. And y'all follow me, chat. Let me know what you think. And number one, I appreciate you guys being in here, man. I know it's early in the morning. We do these in the morning on Thursday. So I really appreciate you guys being in here, man. I do. The support that you guys have shown this channel since we started a year ago, April 4th, is incredible. And April 4th happens to be a special day for me. That's one of the reasons we started on that day. I'll just give you that, is because that was the day my father was born. You know, my father's no longer with us, and we just started the channel on April 4th of last year. So that's a special day to me. But as far as who's going to have more, I still believe that George Pickens is a more talented wide receiver than DK Metcalf. As far as talent, I think he's better. Now, what we've seen on the field and what DK's been able to show, I think DK's had better quarterback play, and I think offensive system has run through him a little bit more. But I think as far as talent, I think Pickens is better. But you're right, Devin. DK's more reliable. DK's not going to take plays off. DK's not going to half-ass running routes, even if he's not the number one option. DK is going to give maximum effort when it comes to blocking. He's going to do all of that. I think DK loves knocking a guy down or blowing up a safety on a run play. I think he likes that. Not as much as scoring a touchdown, but pretty damn close. And we've seen it. So we've seen it. So for me, I think that Pickens actually might have more receptions And I think it's going to be one or the other. Whoever has the most receptions, I think the other one's going to have more yards. So DK might actually have more receptions, but I think Pickens might actually have more yards because DK will do the dirty work, underneath routes, the dig routes, that kind of stuff, going over the middle, although we don't throw over the middle, but I think we will with the different quarterback. Quarterbacks that actually look over the middle and aren't afraid to throw the ball over the middle. So that's what I see. And I saw GP working on his routes. He looked good. He looked good. He looked fluid. He looked good. You know, I like it. I like it. So, yeah, there you go, Digital. He said they will both have similar production, 900 to 1,100 yards, both 7 to 9 TDs. I like that. Here's the thing. If that's the case, if both have between 900 and 1,100 yards and 7 to 900 TDs, what's the running game doing? Seriously, what's the running game doing? And I would say that the running game is probably pretty damn good because if you've got those two guys doing that, then they're trying to stop the run. And they're not able to stop the run. So I think if we can get that type of production, I love it. Slanik said a QB that can see over the line. Well, I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So you are not wrong. Pickens, I think, look, first of all, this is a make or break. I've said this before in chat. Y'all can tell me that I'm crazy. But I think George Pickens, it's one of two things this year. Either he's an idiot or he's not an idiot. And we're going to know by his demeanor this year. George Pickens is in line to make upwards of $30 million a season. And if he acts the way that he has acted the last couple of seasons, his rookie year, he wasn't bad. But the last two seasons, he's acted like an idiot, doesn't give effort on certain plays, comes out in the media and says just ignorant stuff, giving up on routes mid-route during a play. If he does that this season, then he's an idiot. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. He's just an idiot. But if he comes out and he acts like he's got some sense, puts all his effort into this thing, then we've got something and the Steelers need to pay him. But we're going to know. We're going to know. Because when you're in line to make $30 million a year and you still act like an idiot, giving up routes, half-assing routes, not blocking, doing that kind of stuff, if you do that, then aren't you an idiot? I mean, look, at your job, if you are in line to get a 300% raise, but you know what? For the next 4 months, you have to put your best foot forward. Just give me your best effort. Whether the results are necessarily there, you just got to give me your best effort, and you're going to get because we know the results are going to be there if you give your best effort. You're going to get a 300% raise. I'm guessing everybody in this chat would say, you know what? For 4 months, yeah, I can figure that out. Can George Pickens? That's what I'll say. Can he figure it out? Can he do that? Can he just keep it together? If he can, we've got something. If he can't, the Steelers got to move on. If he can't do that, we just got to move on. So, yeah, Big Pun, he does. Because GP's catch radius is insane. Think of all those comeback routes that George Pickens caught from Kenny Pickett. All those inaccurate balls that Baby Hands was throwing to him that he was catching, diving backwards, falling out of bounds. Think about all those contested catches he had to make because Baby Hands' ball placement was horrific at best. So, yeah, his catch radius is insane. It's insane. Alonzo Dunn joining the chat. What's going on, Mr. Dunn? He said, I say Pickens needs the ball. I'm very high on GP. Once he realizes that he will get the ball, George goes to elite status. I think that has a lot to do with it. How many games did we see last year where the Steelers just didn't even target him for a quarter and a half? And then when they did, it was like one of those stupid wide receiver screens that never went anywhere. I don't think that Russell Wilson trusted him. Part of that's on Russell Wilson, but part of it was on the offensive coordinator and on George Pickens himself. Hey, how am I supposed to trust you when I'm expecting you to be somewhere when I get to the top of the drop and you're half-assing the route and I'm looking at you? I can't throw the ball. So, trust has to be earned. I get it. He's your best receiver, but at the same time, it's like, hold on a second. I want to throw you the ball, but, you're going 70% on the route. I can't throw you the ball. So, can't do it. And DC TV, I'm 100% in agreement with you. I don't have a problem with diva receivers. I don't have a problem with them at all, man. I want a wide receiver to want the football. Now, I don't want you causing problems in my locker room, but I don't mind you coming back to the huddle telling your quarterback you were open, telling your offensive coordinator, hey, man, get me involved. Get me in the game. Let me do something. I don't mind that at all. But if you're not going to produce, that's where the problem comes in. Because you think Jerry Rice didn't come back to Joe Montana and Steve Young and tell him after every damn pass play, hey, man, I was open. Hey, where are you looking? Why didn't you throw it to me? I was open, bro. What's going on here? You don't think Jerry Rice did that? Of course he did. Of course he did. So there's nothing wrong with you doing that. You just got to be productive. You got to be productive. Ali says, I think Russell stopped trusting George in that crucial sack where GP ran through the end zone to get covered on the third down. 100%. 100%. And I hope Metcalf helps GP mature. Because here's the thing, man. If GP just puts it together mentally and can be a mature football player, if he does that, I've said it all along. Why the hell can't the Steelers pay him? Now, I get it. We could franchise him. We could do all that stuff. But why can't we pay him? There are plenty of teams in the National Football League that pay 2 wide receivers and a quarterback. Plenty of teams do that. Now, you can't spend $160 million on your defense, but there are plenty of teams. And I'll be honest with you, I think the Steelers are setting up to actually do that. I think the Steelers are setting up like, you guys are insane. We're never trading George Pickens. We're going to sign him to a long-term deal. We're going to franchise him. We're going to sign him to a deal. We want him on our football team. I think there's a lot of truth to that. The salary cap keeps going up. Everybody gets so concerned with the amount of money that people make. Don't worry about the money. Worry about the percentage of the cap that they take. Don't count somebody's pocket. Don't worry about what the Steelers are handing out. Just worry about how much percentage of the cap that they're taking up. If somebody's taking up, 15, 18% of the cap, be worried about that. Just if somebody's making $300 million a year, but it's only 6% of the cap, okay. I could care less. And again, obviously that's hypothetical because we know the cap isn't that high. But I'm just saying, don't worry about what somebody's making. Just worry about what the percentage of the cap is. Got our first super chat of the day from Mr. Alonzo Dunn. Like a big woman, make them pay like they weigh. Pay George. Lord have mercy. Alonzo Dunn, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, but yeah, I agree. I agree. Ali says, when will we stop thinking of 20-year-olds as kids? They're not. Dumb adults are still adults. Exactly. He got to mature. He's got to mature. Now, granted, I should, on the first part of that, I still call kids that age because kids that age, a lot of them are in college. I call them kids all the time. But just because you're a kid doesn't mean you can't be mature. Doesn't mean you can't grow up. You know, and being a dumb young adult, I agree. But there's still consequences to your actions. So, Torsia says start a GoFundMe for GP's contract. Damn that. The Steelers got the money. They got the money. They could pay him. We don't need to start a GoFundMe for that. Shoot. They can pay him exactly what they want to pay him. And maybe they will. Look, we keep talking, Andy Waddle, we keep talking about how him and Omar Khan, they're trying to copy what the Philadelphia Eagles did. Well, what did the Eagles do? The Eagles, they drafted O-linemen. They drafted D-linemen. They got good wide receivers. And they're going to continue to draft big people, you know, and turn the roster that way. The Eagles aren't paying everybody. Look what the Eagles did. They won the Super Bowl, but what? They lost 3 defensive linemen, and then they just replenished those guys. But they're paying their offense. They're paying a quarterback, 2 wide receivers, a running back. They're almost their entire offensive line is making good money. I mean, but their defense is fairly young. Fairly young. Not paying that many people on the defensive side of the ball. So it's just a situation. So, oh yeah, Howard, that's the whole thing about the cap, man, is that you can manipulate that thing any way you want. Howard says they can manipulate the pay per year many ways, and I found out by asking questions to understand why. You can manipulate the salary cap anyway. Now, you always say, well, they're kicking the can down the road and eventually have to pay. You will, but you don't have to do it all in 1 year. You know, the definition of doing it wrong would be the Saints. The Saints kicked everything down the road, and all of a sudden, well, then they had to pay up all at the same time. It's because the person that was manipulating their cap didn't know what the hell they were doing. But other teams do it all the time, man. You can manipulate the cap, extend guys. You can do that in a multitude of ways. A multitude of ways. So, but it is what it is. Yinzer Joe, thanks for coming in, man. Says, do you think holding on to their candy money until Rodgers decides? I don't know if they can afford to pay TJ Pickens and possibly Rodgers. Yes, they can. First of all, you don't have to pay Pickens this year, so that's number one. They have plenty of – first of all, when you sign TJ, the Steelers get more money on the cap. That's kind of what we're talking about as far as manipulating it. When you extend somebody, you get more cap space. So they extending TJ Watt gives the Steelers more cap space. They already have plenty of money for Rodgers, and you could get more money by restructuring Minka, Pat Freiermuth, Cam Hayward. You can get even more money. Steelers got a ton of money. That's not the issue. That's not the issue. So, following the logic, thanks for coming in. He says the brain's not mature until 25. Yeah, you're right. That still doesn't give you, that's not an excuse, though, for stupid mistakes and for doing stupid things. But I get what you're saying, man. I get exactly what you're saying. So, Big Pun says, my brain peaked at 25, if I remember correctly. Lord have mercy. I mean, if you stay off the Cuervo and the St. Ives, Big Pun, you'd be fine. Your problem is you've been mixing Cuervo with St. Ives. How the hell is your brain supposed to function? Lord have mercy. Can't function like that, brother. What are we doing? Alonzo Dunn says GMs need to earn their money and get creative with that cap. Absolutely. At this point, I don't even know if they have to get creative with the cap. The Steelers have a ton of space. Like, you're not even getting creative right now. It's just we got cap space. And we're going to take the cap space into next year. So now you got to spend 90% of it, because if you don't spend 90%, whatever's left over, say you spend 84%, that remaining 6% gets spread out to everybody else on the roster. So the Steelers are going to spend the 90% because they got to pay it no matter what. So that's the deal. That is the deal. Would Nick Chubb, could he be a good signing? Here's the thing about Nick Chubb. I think Chubb probably has a year or two still left in him. Chubb doesn't do anything out of the backfield, and Caleb Johnson hadn't shown that he can do much out of the backfield. Do you need two of those guys on your roster? Like, I think Chubb would be great in this blocking scheme. I absolutely do. But what's he going to give you out of the backfield? Because he hadn't shown much. Maybe we don't need much. I don't know. We're talking about all these weapons we have. Throw the ball down the field. Okay, I'm with that. But what's he going to do in pass protection? We'll see. But that would be my only thing. I think Chubb would be fine. It's just, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? So we'll see. We'll see. Front load some contracts, says Torsia. Backload other contracts, incentives, guaranteed money, pay cuts. Steelers will be fine with the cap. The Steelers are absolutely fine with the cap. Absolutely fine with the cap. Yeah, I saw Chubb's workout video where he was jumping over those high hurdles, just vertical, and then jumped up and hit his head on the damn ceiling. That doesn't look like a guy that doesn't have any more explosion. Now, it's different, obviously, doing it in shorts in a workout, but I don't give a damn. That didn't look like a guy that's suffering from a knee injury. Would he jump over 3 high hurdles, and then at the end, he literally jumped up and hit his head on a 9-foot ceiling? That doesn't look like a guy that's struggling to come back from a knee injury anymore. It doesn't look like that, man. Not to me. Alonzo Dunn, again, thanks for the super chat. Tequila and vodka for punt. If we could just get Big Pun to switch to either tequila or vodka, we would be fine, ladies and gentlemen. We got to get Big Pun off the Cuervo and the St. Ives mix. That mix. Y'all remember when Mike Tomlin was sweating a couple of weeks back? Me and Big G made a video about it. Turns out Big Pun snuck into the owners meeting, got Mike Tomlin to go drinking with him the night before. That's why he was sweating like he was. Big Pun was out there, had a flask full of Cuervo and St. Ives, giving it to Mike Tomlin. Lord have mercy. Stop it. Stop it. So, Dorsey said gonna make Chubb and Tomlin do Chubb and Minka do the Oklahoma drill. So, the Browns' O-line last year was bad. Absolutely, it was bad. Yeah, it was bad. So, I mean, here's the thing. You guys were mad at, and not you guys, we were mad at Dan Moore Jr. last year. Could you imagine having Dedrick Wills as your left tackle like the Browns had? Just think about that for a second. We were furious that Dan Moore Jr. was our left tackle. Can you imagine having Dedrick Wills as your left tackle? Whew. Whew. So while it was bad, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. So, all right, people, we're going to shut this one down for today, man. I appreciate everybody being in here and supporting the channel like you guys do. Thank you, guys. Make sure you guys do 2 things for me, man. 1, hit the like button. Go outside of this video. Make sure you hit that like button. And then also leave a comment. Anybody that's in here that's not already subscribed, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you always know when Steelers Almighty content comes out. I appreciate you guys being in here this morning. Like I said, I know it's early and you don't have to be. So I appreciate you guys showing up and showing out like you always do, man. It does mean a lot to me. Does mean a lot to me. So thank you guys for coming in. Podcast will be out tomorrow. Make sure you guys show up. Premiere will have our podcast. We're going to tape it today. It'll come out tomorrow. Appreciate you guys being in here, man. And aloha.